Bergeron Motors, 3525 Veterans Boulevard in Metairie, corner of North Arnold, where you can get the best Christmas present in town. Get that wonderful vehicle, a Volvo, a Ram, a Dodge, a Chrysler. You name it, they've got it at Bergeron Motors. We hope you'll check them out because I guarantee you they will please you with the deal they make, and you'll be happy with the vehicle you drive away with. Merry Christmas, one and all, and welcome to another edition of Sports NOLA TV. Ken Trahan with you. We'll have our guest panelists coming along shortly. Of course, first and foremost, we talk about the Saints and a fifth consecutive win. Another first in Saints history and more accolades for the Sean Payton regime with the New Orleans Saints. Ken Trahan, Sports NOLA TV, Bergeron Motors, 3525 Veterans Boulevard in Metairie. And as always, it's great to have our regulars with us to break it all down. First and foremost, former Saints wide receiver Torrance Small.
Glad to be back, Ken. Hey, a win is a win. We'll take it. This time of the year, we'll take it. A win is a win.
Brian Alley Walsh, outstanding writer and contributor to sportsNOLA.com. He'll have his say. He's dapper today.
Yes. Merry Christmas. Great to be back.
Thank you, Santa. We appreciate that. And
got his Christmas tie early.
Absolutely, man.
Showing it off.
Trying to get that beard to go on a little bit longer so he can play Santa next week. And our special guest today did some awfully good things, too. Good look at him there. Of course, St. Augustine Purple Knight, Nebraska Cornhuskers, and Pro Bowler with the New Orleans Saints.
Watch the block.
Like a rocket, okay? See you later. Michael Lewis, Lewis was pretty fast. I'd challenge him against this guy in their prime. Take a shot at it.
Where's the kicker?
Small was known for taking out the kickers.
Where's the kicker?
He was awfully good. Tyrone Hughes with us.
Thanks,
Tyrone, it's great to have you with us, man.
Thanks for having me. Merry Christmas to everybody.
Well, the Saints, of course.
Torrance was known for taking out the kickers. He was a cheap shot guy on the kickers.
Wow.
Really.
Good Christian man like that.
Hey, you're not that big.
We was on the field.
Hey,
we was on the field.
That guy had on shoulder pads and helmet.
Okay, all right. Well, the Saints win their fifth straight game, and they get it done on the road. No turnovers. Again, Brian, when you don't turn the football over, you're going to win. This is 4 straight games the Saints have gone without a turnover. That's a remarkable stretch.
It really is, considering the number of times Drew puts the ball up and everything like that. It's 4 straight games. I can't remember the last time they went 4 games without a turnover. So that's a real positive, too, as we're heading down the stretch.
Tyrone, as you look at this game, a lot of missed opportunities for the Saints. I don't think Tennessee ever really stopped them. The penalties stopped them. They had 435 yards, and they were constantly behind the chains because of these penalties.
Well, I mean, it also worked for the Saints and against the Saints because Tennessee, obviously, like you said, in the first half, had a lot of penalties also. I think one of the biggest problems, though, that you saw was that the Saints just couldn't get going. And one of the things I was surprised about is how their defense was able to stop the Saints. And I really thought they were going to come out and throw the ball and run the ball with Chris Johnson. And the Saints defense did an excellent job, but then they couldn't stop the pass of the Titans.
Speaking of that, Torrance, how do you play defense for 3 quarters in about 4 or 5 minutes the way the Saints did in impeccable fashion? Then all of a sudden it's like the Red Sea parted and this team gains like 175 yards in the 4th quarter. How does that happen?
Ex-Tebow. Ex-Tebow. But this goes back to us just, we talked about it. We're not that talented. We don't tackle very well. Those are some things that we have to clean up. Now, one thing I give to Tennessee, now, they got our guys on the ground. They didn't give up the big plays. They kind of stayed at home. But in the second half, we was able to get down the field a little better, which was good for us because Marcus Colston had a couple big catches later on when Drew had the time to throw the ball.
Brian Colston's really had a Pro Bowl season. I think the guy deserves that kind of recognition. He's a quiet guy. He's always looked at as a good receiver by his peers, never in that top tier of 3 or 4. He's having the kind of season that merits that.
Absolutely, and you made a great point on that first touchdown catch. There's not many guys that are going to go up and catch that ball, but they've got such a great rapport, Marcus and Drew Brees, that he can throw that ball where only he can catch it. Marcus he surprised me. I was not prepared for this kind of season. What? He's a good receiver now, don't get me wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. Is this his contract year, Kenny? Do you know?
Yes,
I believe it is.
Yes, it is.
Let's
The
come
wide
on,
receiver
come on,
wants
come
to speak.
on. Come on. Let's look.
That's
Now,
not a knock.
Well, let me
now.
ask you this. Well, let me ask you this.
T, that's not a knock.
Okay,
It's
well,
just-
let me ask you this here. Has he been healthy the last couple of years? He's always been injured. But when this guy is healthy, this guy is one of the best receivers in the league with Drew Brees.
Laura, turn
He's
that
one-
camera over here. If ifs and buts were candy and nuts, you still got to be healthy, right?
Yes. But what I'm telling you, he's healthy. The guy was hurt early in the year. The guy's healthy. Keep doing what you're doing. You're not only going to go to the Pro Bowl, but you're going to take us to the Super Bowl again. We love you. Don't worry about this gray beard guy down here. We love you, Marcus. You are our man.
All right, Tyrone, listen. Bottom line is, when you have Jimmy Graham now occupying people defensively, you have Darren Sproles occupying people, you have Lance Moore, of course, and then Robert Meacham and Devery Henderson. It's made things, I think, a little bit easier for Colston. He was that guy that used to draw that safety over the top, helping out a corner. Now, that's not the case much of the time.
Well, again, and you're right on that, Ken. Marcus Colston used to be that guy, especially in the red zone. Now Drew has two guys in the red zone, and Jimmy Graham and Marcus Colston, who are two big guys where you can threaten the middle. That's the key thing that made Peyton Manning so good. You get Dallas Clark, who wasn't a big guy, but you need somebody who knows how to stretch the middle of that field and can catch. First of all, that's the most important thing. Over the top of those linebackers and can get behind them, because for whatever reason, and I'm totally against it, most defensive coordinators want to play cover two in the red zone. And it's impossible to do, well, it's not impossible. When you have a Jimmy Graham or a Marcus Colston, receivers of those calibers, anytime you release those receivers on the outside, the safeties have to split. So the only people that are left to cover those inside receivers are linebackers or small defensive backs. So that's why the middle is open. Graham has now taken that pressure off of Colston, whereas before Colston had taken that pressure off of all of the other receivers.
Well, not only that. Not only that. Let's give some credit to Sean Payton. Now, Sean Payton, you are designing a great offense. You're putting these guys in great position where they can make plays, which is a good thing now, because he matches these guys up one-on-one with motion and with motion and all. So I think not only just the players, great players, but putting great players in position to make plays.
3 times in the red zone they came away with field goals, right? Where are the tight ends, and where's Jimmy Graham and Marcus Colston there?
Flags.
Well, Graham caught a touchdown
Penalties.
pass. They just didn't give it to him.
That's
One of those occasions, as I stated earlier. In the show.
Exactly.
Hey, Brian, before we get to break, maybe the worst thing that could have happened to the Saints was Matt Hasselbeck leaving the game.
I agree. You know what, we talked about this off air is when we watched Jake Locker 3 games ago against Atlanta, came in and filled in for Hasselbeck when he went to the sideline. And I'm thinking, hey, this kid's a rookie, but he really plays with a lot of poise. He throws the ball well, and he makes smart, decisive decisions. And he did that again yesterday, too.
And he's a totally different type of guy.
Yes.
He's going to move, and you haven't prepared for
Right,
that.
exactly.
And it was really surprising to me to see how well this kid stepped in
He
and
can run.
played.
Yeah.
And
he can throw the ball
performed in
well.
that game.
Yeah.
He did. You know what I mean? And again, to have a guy like Chris Johnson in there and to take him out of the game the way they did and really depend on this kid to move the ball and win the game for you, he did an excellent job. The only knock I would have on him would be at the end of the game, you just got to throw the ball up.
That's one of the reasons that they had space to run in, because they were king on Johnson the entire game.
Exactly. And he'll grow. And another thing, this kid showed toughness. Did you see the lick that this kid showed? Not only he got back up, came back in the game and finished. He showed a lot of toughness. I look for a lot out of Locker in coming years.
A lot of good rookie quarterbacks in this league this year. This is one of the best years we've seen in recent memory as a whole with rookie quarterbacks. We're just getting started. When we return in just a moment, we'll take a look at the NFC South and take a look at the NFL results and comment on what impressed us or depressed us the most as we continue. Still to come, our hot seat segment as well, and Coach Henry Rando later in the show as we continue with Sports NOLA TV from Bergeron Motors, 3525 North Arnold in Metairie. Back in a moment. Our Sports NOLA TV trivia question of the week. The Saints clinched the 9th playoff berth in franchise history on Sunday. Our question, which team has New Orleans faced more than any other in the playoffs? Chew on that for a few minutes. We'll have the answer a little bit later. I've got it already. I'm gloating. It's okay. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. And speaking of right and wrong, there's right and wrong in the NFC South as we take a look at the standings in the division now, with the Saints 2 games clear of the Falcons. Tampa Bay continues to fall apart, and Carolina has promised but can't hold the lead. They're not yet ready for primetime players with some primetime talent that will be dangerous in another year. Torrance, you look at the division, 2-team race. We've talked about it for weeks now. Still is.
Yes, I was hoping Cam Newton was able to come out and pull that game out against Atlanta. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to do it. Atlanta still is hanging around, but one thing we do know about us, we're in, so the rest of it doesn't matter. Right now, we're trying to fight against the 49ers, who lost the game. You said it, you called it, against Arizona. Is it Phoenix or Arizona?
Arizona.
Arizona.
Yeah.
I'm going back to the Phoenix Cardinals. Sorry about that guy. But
he must be old.
Back in those days. Not as old as this gentleman down here to my right.
What do you want to say, Louis?
He's ancient, man. That's exactly. The Chicago Cardinals. That's him, Brian L.E. Walsh.
Back when you fold up.
Tyrone, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, what's happened to them this year?
To be honest, I don't know. Tampa Bay really had just went into the tank. They started off well, hot like a steamroller. They had the quarterback, Campbell, he was on the roll, and for whatever reason, they just seemed like they've gone downhill. They fell apart. Lack of discipline, I think that has shown, at least, as far as some of the things, some of the reasons why they've lost this game.
Character win for the Falcons, Brian. They're going to be there till the end.
Yeah, I really thought when the Saints were up 22-10 in the fourth, and you looked at Atlanta losing to Carolina, I'm thinking they're going to clinch the NFC South today, Sunday, and it didn't happen. But they were up top, and Matt Ryan did a great job of bringing the team back.
Let's take a look at NFL scores from this past weekend heading into the Monday Nighter. Of course, Pittsburgh won the Thursday Nighter, 14-3 over Cleveland. Harrison might get suspended. Atlanta, we mentioned the comeback win over Carolina. Detroit held off the Vikings. That's who the Saints play next. Indianapolis still winless. Houston, great come-from-behind win. Jacksonville, 41 unanswered points. They're still playing for their new coach, not Tampa Bay. Philadelphia took care of Miami. Tony Sperano is going to be gone. New England outscored Washington. Tebow did it again, overtime Denver over Chicago. The Jets looking very good against the Chiefs, who get rid of their coach. Arizona, as we mentioned, big win over the 49ers. Big help to the Saints. Green Bay just crushed Oakland to remain unbeaten. San Diego destroyed Buffalo, who's fading very fast. And the Giants in a thriller over Dallas in the Sunday night game. A real dog on Monday night, St. Louis and Seattle. Torrance, what catches your eye about the NFL results?
Again, I'm going to go with Arizona and the 49ers. 49ers, you have an opportunity to get home field advantage. You get a bye week on the first week, and you go and you lay an egg like this. Now you have to win the rest of these games because the Saints have the pressure on you, and which we're going to keep the pressure on you. And if you slip up, we will have that first week bye and that home game.
Tyrone, what got your attention?
Oh, definitely that Monday night game with Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants. I just could not believe the way that game went back and forth within the last 3 minutes of the game, and the way it ended up. I mean, this was one game where the timeout actually helped.
Brian?
A couple of things. I think Green Bay just whipping Oakland up in Lambeau Field. I didn't see that coming at all. But the other thing is Houston Texans clinching their first playoff berth. A great win for Gary Kubiak and TJ Yates, a third-string quarterback. They came from, I think it was almost 10 or 13 points down, up in Cincinnati to beat the Bengals. Great win, and they've shown that they can continue to win with that team.
Yeah, stole my thunder. It's Houston
I'm sorry.
to me. I'm impressed. Good
Yes.
job.
Yes.
Houston to me, too. TJ Yates winning, but Wade Phillips, truly one of the best defensive coordinators in modern times. He's a brilliant mind. One of those guys that never really translated into being a head coach, but he's a terrific person, and he's a better assistant coach as a coordinator. So very impressed with Houston and what they've accomplished. All right, here's the playoff picture in the NFL as we stand. First of all, in the NFC, the Packers, 49ers and Saints now tied, but the 49ers are the tiebreaker, but the Saints now have a real shot to catch them. Giants slide into that 4th spot by virtue of their win over Dallas. Atlanta solidly in 5th. Detroit right there coming off of their win. Chicago and Dallas hanging on in the hunt. Flipping it to the AFC, it's the Houston Texans, the aforementioned Texans, with the Ravens and the Patriots on top. Denver leading their division. And then Pittsburgh and the Jets, the wildcard teams, if the season ended today, with Tennessee and Cincinnati holding on to their hopes to be able to make the playoffs. with 3 weeks remaining. It's time now for our fan segment where we allow a fan to ask a question or two of our guest panelists. And today we got a fan that's pretty good, pretty smart. He knows a little bit of football, played a little bit of football in his own time, and he played it pretty well too. So with that, time for our Sports NOLA TV fan question. And sir, state your name and fire away.
My name is Kerry Joseph. My first question is for Brian. What do the Saints need to do to show up their defense down the stretch to be more consistent throughout the course of a game?
Kerry, good question. They need to hire and sign about 4 or 5 free agents. If they can do that during the season, they got a chance, Kerry. No, seriously, folks. You know what they need to do? They just need to tighten up and do what they do better. We have said on this panel all season long that their defense is what it is. And they're going to have these moments where they're going to look good, and they're going to have moments where they don't look good. Hopefully, they won't have too many bad moments as they move toward the playoffs.
And Tyrone, your take on that?
I mean, like I said, it's just a matter of getting the defense together. We say they bend but don't break, and so far they haven't broken. There's a lot of bending. There's been a lot of
flexible. They're very flexible.
Very flexible, but a lot of mental mistakes, and they really have to clean that up. And you can't go into the playoff with having that type of game because it's not going to happen. You're not going to win that way. And as this team goes, I should say, as Drew Brees goes, so does this team. And I think that was one of the things you saw in the beginning. The offense didn't move. The defense came in. They did an okay job, but everything was close until that offense actually starts rolling.
Mr. Joseph, your second question for Torrance Small.
Second question is, the Saints have been winning ugly. They won ugly on Sunday. Is it enough for them going down the stretch into the playoffs to win that way against the Green Bay, against the San Francisco 49ers?
Now, I don't think you can win games like this against the better teams because they capitalize on your mistakes. So the one thing we have to be able to capitalize off other teams' mistakes. Now we didn't get any turnovers yesterday. That's something that we have to get. We always talk about the turnover margin. That's something we have to do in order to win ball games. If you look at the 49ers and you look at Green Bay, those are two teams that's probably topped in the turnover margin, and that's why they're winning ball games. And that's something that we have to do. Going back to our defense, that we need to work on a little bit more.
Well, it's a defense that has the ability to play good enough. Not beyond that, but good enough. And how do they play good enough? Bend but don't break. And by the way, you might want to force a turnover or two now and then. This is a team offensively that has not turned it over in 4 games, and yet defensively they've only created, I think, 3 during that time. So you need to do a little bit more of that. If you can just dislodge the ball, make a play now and then, that's good enough with this offense and with this kicking game that the Saints have, both of which are elite by NFL standards. When we return in just a moment, we are going to put Brian Alley Walsh on the hot seat. It's going to involve clock management. Get ready for it. The watch is ticking at Bergeron Motors, 3525 Veterans Boulevard in Metairie. Back in just a moment with more of Sports NOLA TV. Our trivia question for Sports NOLA TV. The Saints clinched the 9th playoff berth in franchise history on Sunday. Which team has New Orleans faced more than any other in the playoffs? The answer is the Minnesota Vikings. 87 season, 2000 season, 2009 season. And of course, those first 2 didn't end so well. The last one ended in euphoric fashion, catapulting the Saints to a Super Bowl, which of course they won just 2 short years ago. They hope to get back there soon. Ken Trahan, Sports NOLA TV. Bergeron, Volvo, Jeep, Ram, Chrysler, Dodge, you name it. They've got a 3525 Veterans in Metairie. Come by, get a great deal for Christmas. It's time for our hot seat segment where we put Brian Alley Walsh on the hot seat and let him simmer and then tell him why he's wrong. And today, our hot seat segment is all about clock management. Boy, did we have some great examples. Tennessee and the Saints. Tennessee throwing a long pass on 3rd and less than a yard, leaving themselves 1 down to make a first. They don't make it on the sneak. The Saints, of course, throwing a pass when Tennessee has no timeouts left with 1:51 remaining. It's incomplete. Saves Tennessee 40 seconds for that final drive. Then Tennessee runs Chris Johnson with no timeouts and 48 seconds left, and they lose about 20 seconds in the process. Dallas throws a deep ball to Miles Austin, incomplete when the Giants have no timeouts left. We saw all kinds of examples of clock management. The Bears, they tried to manage it right, but Marion Barber ran out of bounds. Brian, the floor is yours.
And I'll tell you, go back a week ago, Kenny, when the Dallas Cowboys, when Jason Garrett calls timeout. So, it makes you wonder. These gentlemen, I say head coaches, generally are making these decisions on the sidelines. They're making millions of dollars. And yet they make decisions sometimes that are just so weird and different than what you go, I'm not sure what's going on here. You're exactly right. We'll use the Tennessee Saints game as a perfect example. Drew Brees, I knew that they were going to throw the ball on that 3rd and short, and they did. And you made a great point. A linebacker is covering that receiver in the flat. If that's a DB, if that's a DB, that's 6 probably the other way, and that gives them more time in the clock. So you know what? I know these guys are smart, and yet they make decisions that sometimes you just have to shake your head about. But clock management is going to win you or lose your games every time.
Well, this is the thing about clock management. You practice all week with the 2-minute. You have 2-minute warning practice stuff all through the week. You might start at the 20 with 1 minute and 40 seconds and 2 timeouts. They'll start you at the 50 with 40 seconds left in the game. You have all this preparation and you're prepared for these type of situations. You just don't go out and not be ready for these situations. You talk about it. Not only do you talk about them at practice, but during the game and timeouts. They say, if this situation comes up, call timeout. If this situation comes up, hurry up and clock it.
But T, as much as that, it's the play selection, okay? That's what I guess I'm trying to critique more, is the play selection.
At those times.
Yeah, at those times.
I mean, because like you said, I didn't agree with Tennessee running the ball with Chris Johnson.
Now, my goodness.
But the understanding is you figuring the Saints are going to either blitz or they're in their safe defense. So they're going to have maybe 3 or 4 linemen rushing. We can hit him with a quick draw, get him up the field, get Chris going, or what have you. It didn't work out. Now you have those guys, receivers that are way down the field. They have to run all the way back and get lined up, get a play call. So that in that situation, that was a bad call because the play didn't work. When it works, it's fine. When it doesn't, it's bad.
You know, there was a play at Atlanta a couple of weeks ago where Matt Ryan, they were trying to drive down in the final minute. Julio Jones runs a deep ball. Incomplete pass, and they've got it, and the clock is going to run now, and he's taking his sweet time coming back. And you know, so you're right. There has to be preparation, but again, it's play selection by these head coaches.
Now we talk about Drew Brees and one thing. Why did we throw the ball and all? Hey, we want to put the ball in Drew Brees' hand. Sometimes we throw the ball. It's like a pass, a little short pass. He made a bad decision. We live with that, folks. Drew Brees, we're going to live with some of those things, okay? But to the answer to some of these other teams, I don't understand why they do some of the things. You know, look at him.
He's looking for a job. He's looking for a job.
Well, let's go back to Marion Barber.
Coach for hire.
Marion Barber.
Curtis Johnson is left. Curtis Johnson is left as a wide receiver.
Curtis, you already got my resume.
I'm gonna go on T staff.
There you go.
But to that, Marion Barber. Here's a vet.
Yeah.
A veteran guy.
What are you doing?
Come on. You. There's no answer for that. He knows better. That's on him.
Yeah.
That's on him.
But that gets coaches fired now. Those kind of plays get coaches fired.
If I was the coach, I'd get him before they get me.
Going back to the Saints, you know, you have if you go down the field or once you drive down the field, you always have, especially, and Torrance knows this with receivers, if you run a deep route, especially in a 2-minute situation, as you're coming back, you are letting those guys know, hey, you point to the sideline. Somebody else gets in because I'm going to make it back on time.
Time for a verdict.
So then they have to let it go.
Time for the verdict. Listen, I have no problem with the Saints calling a pass play in that situation and put the ball in your best player's hands. That doesn't mean Drew Brees has to throw the ball. You've got to make a wiser decision than that. If you see the guys covered, look, take off and run. Get a yard or 2. Run the clock, punt the ball, or take a sack. That doesn't hurt anything. You can still punt the ball. You're trusting your best player to make a good decision. With that in mind, I have no problem with the call. I have a problem with the decision in that situation. Drew makes incredible decisions most of the time. That wasn't a real good decision. Therefore, it makes it look like bad clock management. As for the other games, they were all bad decisions. It's that simple. I mean, Dallas, they can't stop me at this point. Are you kidding me? And as for Chicago and what they did, give me a break. It's time now to get you inspired with our Marvelous Minute from Marvelous Marvin LeBlanc. MarvinLeBlanc.com/TV is the website. And Marvin LeBlanc is a motivational speaker and author, has a great DVD that I know you would thoroughly enjoy. It's great to have him back, playing hurt off of injured reserve, playing at about 70%, but he's a man-up guy. He's a gamer. He's marvelous, Marvin LeBlanc. Marvin.
Kenny, good afternoon. Welcome. Glad to see all your staff. Today's message is undirected focus, and much of the conversation that you listeners have heard today has to do with decisions, individual decisions that were made with teammates and players that really they lost their focus. You see, gang, when we actually go and buy a pair of eyeglasses, we're not really looking for the eyeglasses, are we? What we're looking for is the eyeglasses to provide for us better vision. And so today, the habit of it's live television. You have to be flexible. Let that guy go through. You see, today's 2 points that I want to make about the habit of focus is, number one, you have to develop within yourself the art of saying no. You have to develop boundaries that you set for yourself where you don't let yourself be totally accessible by outside distractions. Because what happens is we either spend our time working on things that we'd like to accomplish, and then Torrance, we miss out on the things that we ardently desire and passionately want to accomplish. Because why? We let ourselves be sucked in to those other smaller details, what other people want, and we don't get what we want for our own selves. So if your company is struggling with undirected focus, right now's the time to put in a call to marvinleblanc.com. Talk to us, let us work with you, and let us always remember, Kenny, marvelous performance is never accidental. Brian, marvelous performance is always intentional. Back to you, Kenny.
Amen to that.
All
Marvin,
right.
it's great to have you back. I'm inspired. Marvelous.
Go,
Marvin.
Marvin.
Go there. Tyrone Hughes, we want to thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Outstanding
I appreciate
job.
it.
Yes.
Appreciate everything you do. And listen, Merry Christmas to you and yours. And we'll get
Thank
you
very
back
much.
again in the
Thank
near
you very
future. I
much. And
promise
just
you.
to say my plug, I got my radio show, Tyrone Hughes Show, which is on tonight, Monday, New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood, 4141 St. Charles Avenue, 6:90 a.m., 6 to 8 p.m., me and Eric Asher.
It's great because Brian puts everybody to sleep in the morning and you wake them up. Good
There you go.
job.
What did I do today?
It's all good. It's all good. Tyrone, thank you, my
Thank you
friend.
very much, guys.
Appreciate it.
I
Appreciate it.
it.
All right.
Torrance.
We'll take a time out here. When we continue in just a moment, we'll take a look at LSU and Tulane, and then extensive look at prep. Henry Rando, our high school coach and analyst, will join us as we continue with Sports NOLA TV from Bergeron Motors in Metairie on WHNO. Website around, you'll find anywhere, anytime, sportsNOLA.com. You read some of the headlines there, but Saints, Hornets, Chris Paul, LSU, Tulane, of course, massive coverage of prep every day, including recapping the Superdome Classic that just took place this past weekend, all at sportsNOLA.com. Ken Trahan with you of sportsNOLA.com. Glad to have you with us from Bergeron Motors, veterans in North Arnold, 3525 veterans. Hey, you want a good Christmas present? Come here, just open the car door. The smell will get you, but the ride will hook you. Test drive a car here at Bergeron and enjoy the experience, as I did fairly recently when we bought one here. Now it's time to introduce our special guest who has joined us, a legendary prep coach for many years. Name the school, he was there. A Jesuit to Rummel to Holy Cross to St. John Prep to Hammond to East Jefferson and all parts in between. And of course, the outstanding analyst for Ken Trahan's original Prep Football Report on WGSO 990 AM, Coach Henry Rando. Henry, it's good to have you.
Well, thank you, Ken, for having me.
And we'll get into prep here very shortly. But first and foremost, let's talk about Tulane. And Henry, we'll start with you on this because they've hired Curtis Johnson. And then this past week, they announced the Stadium Initiative. They don't have the money yet, but they're now out there with it and committed to it. And it's just over 30,000 seats. You've seen the model. What do you think about Tulane's program? First of all, about hiring Curtis Johnson. Secondly, about this whole stadium concept on campus, which we get a look at.
Well, I think the biggest thing is I'm excited about the idea of hiring a local person. I've been saying that for years, that they ought to hire a local person. Curtis Johnson certainly fits the bill. I'm not happy, Ken, about the idea of him having to stay with the Saints to the very end, because it's a very critical time on the college level where recruiting and that is in full force right now. And for him to be able to split his time, he has not obviously assembled a staff, which is one of the first things you got to do. He's not going to be able to do it by himself. So I have some concerns in that area.
And I do too, George. He's got to have a few people already hooked for his staff, right?
Yes, when you're talking about the college ranks, it's all about recruiting. If you don't have anybody in there out there in the fields right now trying to get recruits, it's going to be hard to get it with good recruits coming in and playing. And I think he's in an uphill battle right now.
Brian, is the stadium the panacea, or is it just a stopgap in your mind?
No, I think it's one of the things that they need to do to create and make them a relevant program again. And I'm kind of disappointed with all the gloom and doom on this dais. I mean, they've got 12 openings for kids, all right? They've got 10 under commitments right now. So I don't see where, yeah, there's a little bit of pressure, but what this is the agreement that Curtis has with Tulane. They knew going in, so it's certainly endorsed by Scott Cowan.
Right, but I don't think the point is about Curtis. It's about Tulane and what they
It's
agreed
not.
to.
That's exactly right.
My point is that from the recruitment standpoint, there's two
left.
guys that are
Two left. They're honoring the previous 10 commitments.
So I mean, don't calm down.
All right, but here's my point, and I think you'll concur with me on this, okay? When you look at the situation, I don't think it has anything to do with Curtis Johnson, who they hired. I really don't believe that. Are they willing to make a commitment? Number one, allow kids in school. Number two, give you enough money in an assistance pool that you can go out and hire quality people at a salary that's not several $100,000 below everybody else. Third thing, are you going to have a curriculum to keep kids in school? They're not all.
Most importantly,
they're all not going to be, engineers. They're all not going to be engineers. When they had the sports management program years ago, they flourished. They were able to get kids in school. These are the things that I'm worried about. Curtis Johnson, to me, can be the greatest coach since Vince Lombardi, but it's called players. If you can't get players, you're not going to win.
Well, LSU has no such problems. They have commitment, they have money, they have academic programs in place for student athletes, and they're playing for a national championship on January the 9th against Alabama. The Tigers 13-0, the Crimson Tide 11-1. LSU seeking their third national title in 9 years, would be their third in New Orleans, all during that 9-year period. And of course, these two squaring off for the national championship. Brian, we've talked about this game previously. We're going to keep talking about it, obviously, as we move forward. Tyrann Mathieu was a finalist for the Heisman Trophy, finished 5th in the voting. Special tells you what kind of year he had.
Absolutely, and you know what? This is a fitting culmination, I think, to the college football season. It reminds me a lot of the expected Green Bay New Orleans Saints showdown in Lambeau on January the 22nd. But, this is, in my opinion, pits the two best college football teams, and LSU needs to go out right and put the exclamation point on a great season.
And Torrance, right now, they're recruiting. I mean, that's what they're doing.
Oh, you have to recruit, and winning makes recruiting a lot easier. Believe me, Tulane, we got to get some wins going to be able to get some recruiting to come in there. Just like Coach said over here, you're going to have to support him in order to get some of those guys to come in there. But LSU, they're recruiting. Hey, even when they're not out there winning ball games, it's recruiting.
And they can beat Alabama a second time, right, Henry?
Oh, absolutely, they can beat them a second time. I think everybody's looking forward to that. My only concern right now, real quick, is I think the advantage is always to the team that lost the first game.
Time now to take a look at our sportsNOLAtv Prep Player of the Week for Week 15, the final week of the regular season, because it was the state championship week. And Marcus Hall, the outstanding senior running back for St. Charles Catholic, is our Player of the Week. In the state championship game against Amite in 3A, 82 rushing yards, 122 all-purpose yards, as St. Charles Catholic claimed their first ever state championship, 9-8 over Amite in a real defensive battle. Best game in the Dome this past weekend. Congratulations to Marcus Hall. He'll be honored December 19th at the year-end meeting of the Greater New Orleans Quarterback Club at the Embassy Suites, New Orleans. Marcus Hall of St. Charles Catholic. All right, the state championships were decided in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome this past weekend, and here are the results. In 1A, Ouachita Christian 23-7 over West St. John. John Curtis 33-3 over Winfield. Moving to 3A, it was, as mentioned, St. Charles Catholic 9-8 over Amite. Neville wins in 4A, 27-6 over Edna Carr. And in 5A, West Monroe back in the trophy room, beating Karen Crow 20-13. Henry, your overall observations?
Defense wins championships, Kenny. You look at all 5 ball games, the teams that came in there Friday and Saturday that played defense are the teams that walked out there with the trophy.
Who were you most impressed with of all the teams in the dome?
Well, I got to say Neville. I was really impressed with Neville. I thought that they did an excellent job on a good Carr football team. I did not expect them to do what they did to Carr. I expected really Carr to be able to move the ball and throw, even though Noel got hurt in that. But I thought Neville played extremely well.
Frank Monica, first ever championship for St. Charles Catholic. What a
best
job!
Coaching job, in my opinion, best coaching job he did in his whole coaching career. I mean, you lose your first two running backs, you lose them, and you wind up going 15-0 with a freshman coming in and running back and an unproven quarterback.
And a fitting ending for John Curtis's season. JT wins his 500th and caps it with his 24th state title.
Well, my old said, don't ever bet against him. I'll guarantee you that. You know, 24 state championships, enough said. But they put an exclamation point on this. I think this season, 33-3.
They really did. And Brian, Ben Franklin, they didn't quite make it, did they?
No, they didn't. They're still working on improving
Okay.
the football program.
All right.
They need to improve their recruiting. I know that.
And
There
volleyball
we go,
coaching,
recruiting.
no, I'll tell you what, I don't know. I don't know about
Recruiting.
that. Did he say recruiting?
Recruiting, that's what he
Oh,
said.
I heard that.
You hope people will be saying that.
Unbelievable.
I hope people will be saying that.
Unbelievable. His beard's turning colors, man. It's incredible.
Recruiting.
We'll take a time out here when we return in just a moment. We'll preview the Saints' upcoming games and make some predictions as well as Sports NOLA TV continues from Bergeron Motors, 3525 Veterans Boulevard in Metairie. Glad you've joined us here on WHNO. Do you have your tickets to the BCS title game? Well, guess what? You have a chance to do so right now. The Louisiana Lions Eye Foundation is sponsoring a raffle for 4 BCS championship game tickets, 4 Sugar Bowl tickets, and 8 nights at the Inn on Bourbon. Tickets are just $20 each. Purchase them online at lionsraffle.org. That's lionsraffle.org. You want this. You need this. You've got to have this. You've got to take a shot at it and go see these incredible games and stay at a wonderful place as well. Ken Trahan, Sports NOLA TV. The Saints, well, they won 5 straight games now, and they want to extend that, and they're going to have to try to do so in Minnesota against the Vikings. And maybe they need to educate Jared Allen about New Orleans this coming Sunday. Then it's the Atlanta Falcons and the Carolina Panthers coming to town to finish things off. Brian, do they run the table?
I think they do, Kenny, and you know they're gonna face a Vikings team that's 2-11. Christian Ponder's their quarterback, and whether or not Adrian Peterson's going to come back off the injured list remains to be seen. But they should just go up there and take care of business. They're going to finish the last 3 games in domes, so they're going to be, you know, this is their kind of football. So I think they will.
Henry can't take the Vikings lightly, but obviously they're indoors, and that serves the Saints pretty
Well,
well.
I think that plays right into the Saints' hands. I really like the Saints in the last 3 ball games. They're playing for the possibility of a bye and home team advantage until the finals and that. I love them in the last 3 football games.
Torrance.
Yes, I think the Saints going to finish off. I think they'll run the table. Simple reason, they have something to fight for right now. That game that the 49ers lost gave us a little bit more energy, and I think this is going to give us that run that we need to get that first bye in the first week of the playoffs.
Well, it's all about relative health. If they stay healthy, I think they're going to run the table. I think they will win at Minnesota. They will win at home against Carolina and Atlanta. Atlanta will have a lot to play for, but so will the Saints. And I think the Saints are a slightly better football team, Julio Jones notwithstanding, when he's healthy. The Falcons are pretty good, but I do like the Saints' chances to get it done. Listen, here's the bottom line. They're going to be favored in all 3 of those games, which means they're supposed to win those games. And I think they're going to. They threw their lemon in there at St. Louis. They're not going to let that happen again. The prize is in sight now, as was mentioned here about the bye and the situation regarding San Francisco after they lost at Arizona. They've still got to go to Seattle, which is tough. They got Pittsburgh at home this week, which is tough. And then, of course, they've got to to go to St. Louis. Not so tough unless your name happens to be the New Orleans Saints. Bottom line is, I think San Francisco will lose another game. I think the Saints will win out, and I think the Saints will get the bye, which is extremely important, and play a game at home just to get back where they started the season, to Lambeau Field, to face the Green Bay Packers. Henry, it's been great having you. We appreciate it. Great job on the original this year. I know we loved having you.
And
I know you enjoyed it.
Enjoyed it as usual. 15 great weeks.
Torrance, always a pleasure. Keep up the great work, my friend.
Glad to be here. Glad to meet you, Coach.
Same here.
Glad to meet
Same
you.
here.
And Merry Christmas to all out there.
Yeah, if you'd have been here, he'd have recruited you back then. Brian, always
Absolutely.
a pleasure, my
Thanks.
friend.
You too, Kenny. Great to be on the dais with these guys, always.
Yeah, Brian's so old he remembers Coach Rando. It's
That's
amazing.
right.
So I want to thank everybody for watching as always, and remind you we'll be back next week at the same time at 6 p.m. Now, for Brian and Torrance and Henry, I'm Ken Trahan saying thanks for joining us and be a good sport. God bless you one and all. Rounding third and heading home. So long.